RW Wrestling Podcast, old guy is here, and he has another random ass daily match review for you. And we're gonna hop in our time machine, and we're gonna go back a little bit. Now you know what? I'm gonna go back a little bit further, and now a little bit further. And if you think we're too far back now, I'm gonna go back a little bit further than that. Yeah, we're gonna go all the way back to 1984. Yeah, 84. You know how old I was then? I was going on 9 when this match happened. I'm 45 now. This is Andre the Giant versus the Ugandan Giant, Kamala. And they're wrestling under the WWF banner. This match took place on October 21st, 1984, at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, Canada. And this is a steel cage match. So, in that day and age, in '84, the cage matches were the winner of the cage match was the first man through the door or the first man over the top of the cage, and both his feet hit the floor. So the story between these two guys was that they had a match previously in Toronto, and the match was a countout. I think Andre the Giant lost by countout, so he wanted to make sure that he fights Kamala again, and therefore there must be a winner. Hence the cage. So introducing first, accompanied to the ring by Friday. He is more well known as Kimchi. He looks like a safari dude with a safari hat and a mask and Kimchi, I believed, was with Kamala or what, around 2000, 2001. Yeah, something like that. And I believe Kimchi may have been with Yokozuna, but I don't remember that. Anyway, so we got the Ugandan Giant, Kamala, walking to the ring. And at first, Kamala doesn't want to get into the cage. He's a little apprehensive. He knows what's going to happen. And maybe he's just used to being in a cage and got out of a cage and doesn't want to be in one anymore. But either way, Friday decides to use the riding crop that he has and hits Kamala with it. Kamala obeys and he cooperates and he gets into the cage. And one of the commentators at this point says the cage is 10 feet high. If any of you are watching this match, you'll know this cage is not even close to 10 feet. It's barely even 7 feet. Anyway, Andre's head gets to the top of the cage. Let's put it that way. And his opponent is the 8th wonder of the world. He comes out to a great pop from the crowd, and this is Andre the Giant. So, Andre the Giant was a great heel in the late 80s, early 90s, but before then, he was one of the most beloved wrestlers in the world. Legendary status as a somebody who could eat a lot, drink a lot. He's like 7'4". When this match, he was 474, and there's a picture out there of him, like I think with 3 women on his arms, where he's flexing his muscles, quote unquote, and he has 3 arms, the 3 chicks on each arm. It's ridiculous how much of a legend this guy was. Before we get any formal introductions, Andre the Giant decides to go on the attack, and he goes right after Kamala. So here we go. Andre chops Kamala into a corner. He follows that up with a punch. Andre the Giant then just sits on Kamala, and you can see Kamala's feet are just like, oh, good Lord, he's already sitting on me. Oh, good Lord, get off me. Andre the Giant with a headbutt to Kamala. Kamala is able to respond with punches and chops to Andre. We get more chops from Kamala to Andre. We get an Andre chant from the crowd. Oh, this crowd loved Andre. Good Lord, everywhere he went. It's amazing. Andre comes back with a goozle to Kamala. Then Andre picks up Kamala and rams the back of his head into the cage. Andre with another goozle to Kamala and does the same thing with the back of his head. And rams the back of Kamala's head into the cage once again. Kamala takes a chop from Andre. Kamala then tries to figure out a way out of the cage. He's kind of running around each side of the ring, pulling on the sides of the the sides of the cage, trying to figure a way out of it. And Andre catches up to him and then chops Kamala, and Kamala sells to the door. And it looks for some reason like the ref is preventing the door from being opened. I know Friday's over there trying to get the door open for his guy, and the ref is just pushing the door back as Kamala's coming towards it. I don't know what that's about. Andre and Kamala trade chops. Kamala again runs from Andre to the sides of the cage looking for a way out. He's looking pretty scared right now. Andre's on the attack. And Andre, in fact, is stalking Kamala. He's just like waiting for Kamala to start running so he can grab him. So Kamala runs to the door, but Andre is able to pull Kamala back to the middle of the ring, where Andre whips Kamala off the ropes and attempts a backdrop, but Kamala hits Andre with a chop instead to the back of the head, followed by a couple more chops. And then Andre is down on the mat. Friday is encouraging Kamala to keep on Andre, but while the fans are trying their best to fire Andre up. Another couple chops by Kamala knocks Andre down again. Kamala hits a couple splashes on Andre and covers Andre. And then, but the thing is, though, is that Kamala forgets he's in a cage match. So, dude is out the door or over the top. No pins needed in this one. So Friday's yelling at Kamala to get to the door, and then Kamala walks over to the door, but the ref and Friday again are fighting over the door. I mean, what's up with that? The ref is keeping the door shut. Okay, there was a point where the commentator says the ref is there to keep the door shut. But like, what happens when Kamala or Andre walk to the door? Is he going to keep the door shut? It's so weird. I don't get it. All right, anyway. This little bit of back and forth with the door allows Andre to get up and grab Kamala, and he brings Kamala back to the middle of the ring once again. A couple of chops by Kamala finds their mark. Andre starts to sell a little bit, and then Kamala rams Andre's head in a steel cage. And then Andre bumps to a corner. Yes, he bumped. He actually fell on his back. It was actually really cool to see. I have to admit, a lot of the Andre that I saw from like maybe 86 on up, he didn't do a lot of bumping. He just stood in the ring, and everyone worked around that. And the only time he would bump is if he was by a turnbuckle or on the ropes. He would never fall like straight to the ground. This time he did. I was actually very surprised. So Andre bumps to a corner. Okay, so we have more chops by Kamala. We got more chops by Kamala to Andre's head, busting open Andre. Kamala goes right after that open wound with more chops and punches. Kamala bites at Andre, and then he chokes Andre. Kamala hits Andre with some chopsticks. Kamala walks around the ring, smacking his belly. He's feeling pretty good right now. But Friday is yelling at him to stay on Andre, but Kamala is not listening. He's all having fun, smacking his belly, and like he's got Andre bleeding, and he's happy as a clam. So Andre has sold over to the area of the door. Andre blocks Kamala from leaving with a kick to Kamala, so he's basically playing defense right now. He's guarding the door so Kamala can't get out that way. If he can't hit Kamala, if he can't put forth any offense to Kamala, he's going to at least block the door. Good move. Kamala with a pork chop to Andre. Kamala rams Andre's head into the cage again, and then Andre sells to a corner. Kamala with a mutton chop to Andre. Kamala with a Baltimore chop to Andre. Kamala goes back to biting Andre's open wound again. He's hungry, I guess. All those mutton chops I was talking about. Andre chop livers Kamala in the chest. Kamala runs at Andre and takes a chop suey for his trouble. Kamala bumps to the mat. The crowd is starting to get hyped up. They can sense that their boy's getting back in the fight. But Andre can't respond just yet, though. He's still selling the punishment again on the ropes that Kamala dealt him earlier. Yeah, the two shots to the cage and various strikes and all that kind of stuff. And Andre's doing a really good job of selling here. Actually, I'm really enjoying it. Andre with a chopped salad to Kamala. Andre grabs Kamala and pushes him into a corner. And then Andre just leans his entire body weight into Kamala, and you can't even see Kamala at this point. It's actually kind of entertaining. Kamala rakes Andre's eyes and follows with a chopping block. Kamala rams Andre's head into the cage yet again. And at this point, I'm thinking, this match has gone on for a long time. We're pushing maybe almost 7 minutes, maybe 8. I'm surprised it went this long. But hey, I'm enjoying it so far. Let's go. Let's keep going. Kamala goes for the door, and you can clearly see the ref is holding the goddamn door shut. It's ridiculous. Friday's trying to pull the door open for his guy so he can get out. But the ref won't let him. He keeps pushing it. Friday's trying to open it, and what is that about? It's so weird. And again, the commentator says that the referee is there to keep the door shut. But Kamala's trying to leave the cage, and you're going to close the door on him. It's so weird. I don't get it. Andre pulls Kamala back to the middle of the ring as Friday argues with the ref. And at this point, I would have definitely knocked the ref out of this out of the way by now. Like, F this stupid ref. It's so dumb. Kamala with a couple chops to Andre. All right, so you know what? Okay. I've already come to peace with it. But this ref is a piece of shit. Every time Kamala goes for the door, he holds it shut. It's already been like 5 times. And then the referee has the gall to shove Friday out of the way for doing the right thing. I hate this ref. It's so dumb. Again, the announcer brings up it's the job of the referee to keep the door shut. Sure, but like, how's Kamala going to get out if you keep shutting the door on him? All right. So Kamala with a couple chopped livers of his own to Andre. Kamala chops Andre with his foot. By the way, I'm sorry. Andre sells to the mat, and then Kamala chokes Andre with his foot, and then follows up with some more chopsticks. And Andre is still down. Kamala adjusts his game plan slightly and hits Andre with a pork chop. Andre grabs Kamala's ankle and trips him up. And then at this point, Kamala scampers to the door. I mean, I don't know why he's doing this. And again, the referee prevents the door from being opened for Kamala. I mean, Kamala is the heel, right? He's not supposed to be the person who's supposed to be like, has the odds stacked against him, right? It's so strange. It's so stupid. Anyway, this gives a chance for Andre to grab both of Kamala's ankles to prevent Kamala from escaping, which he wasn't going to do anyway. All right, so as Andre is holding his ankles, Kamala decides to try something different and chops Andre in the head. Andre is still down on the mat selling those chopped salads. Andre fights back with a choke to Kamala, and then Andre pulls Kamala down to the mat. He's got this massive chokehold on Kamala. You can see his fingers are just digging into Kamala's throat, and he's applying this choke, and he has him down to the mat. And Kamala is looking not too good right now. He's fading a little bit. But Andre releases the hold and gets back to his feet and kicks Kamala, followed by a two-handed nerve hold on the shoulder area of Kamala. And he stays on that nerve hold for a good maybe 30 seconds, and Kamala at this point is in trouble. Andre hits Kamala with a chop shot. Andre borrows a piece of Kamala's moveset and chops Kamala. Andre rears back and delivers chopped liver to Kamala's chest. Andre with a headbutt to Kamala. Andre picks up Kamala and body slams him. Look, actually pretty impressive. The crowd popped for it too. They haven't seen much of that in '84. They're gonna get the slam of their life a few years later. Wait for that one. Andre with a whoopsie to Kamala, and then Andre does something I never thought he did in his career ever. Is that Andre climbs to the top rope and uses the cage for balance and crushes Kamala with a top rope whoopsie. Huge pop from the crowd. It looked really good. He made it really safe. Really good job by Andre here. Andre points to the door as he gets up off the mat. And this is the only time in the whole match where it made sense for the referee and Friday to be fighting over the door. So Andre's coming to the door, and Friday tries to prevent the door from being opened. I get that, but he's unsuccessful. And at 13 minutes, 56 seconds, Andre the Giant walks out of the cage and is the winner of the steel cage match. Nice. Fans again give Andre a nice pop. Now, one of the commentators has to say that sometimes WWF really confuses me with hyperbole and exaggeration. And so one of the commentators says, they said it couldn't be done. They said no man could be able to walk out of that ring, with the cage around it. But Andre did it. Okay, cool. But one, somebody had to at some point. And two, Kamala could have walked out of that fucker 5 times, but this fucking referee is fucking piece of shit. It's kind of a dumb line by the commentator, so I don't know how to feel about it. But I wonder if, it is ’84. Vince McMahon owns the company. Vincent Kennedy McMahon owns the company. He already bought it from his dad. So I'm wondering if he's in the. I wonder if he's producing the commentator. Is he in the guy's ear in the guy's headphones like he does now? I don't know. Anyway, so as Andre's walking to the back, Kamala is selling in the ring. He's kind of like wondering what happened. He's confused. And Friday eventually leads Kamala out of the ring, and then Kamala walks to the back, and we cut the black. All right. So these two huge men, both these guys are over like at least three. I don't know. Kamala must be around 350, I think, maybe a little more. Anyway, these two huge mountains of men pulled out all the chops. Stops. Couldn't help myself there. Okay, so this match was okay for what it was. It went longer than I thought it would, but to be perfectly honest, that was kind of a good thing. It allowed the two of them to tell a good story. Andre and Kamala were in a match where there had to be a winner, so they both were trying to do what they could to win the match. And so Kamala did what he had to do. He was beating the crap out of Andre, putting his head into the cage and chop suey here or chop liver there, and then Andre was suddenly fighting from underneath. For the middle, for like most of the middle part of the match, and how Andre is able to portray a vulnerable baby face, it just adds to his legend. I mean, like it's not easy to do that for a guy who's like pushing 500 pounds to gain sympathy from people. It's awesome. And I had no doubt Andre was going to win this match, but I still would say that his ability to sell to the crowd that he was vulnerable made them concerned and made them try to fire Andre up. They tried to hype him up, and Andre's so good. He was very good as a heel or a face. It didn't make any difference. He was able to convey what he had to do. And if you ever see his heel work, he's the exact opposite. He barely sold, and he beat the crap out of you. Kamala was able to get some color on Andre, which was a big deal at the time. Seeing Andre get hurt, that is. And seeing Kamala able to maintain control of Andre for as long as he did was actually pretty fun. I wonder if I believe Andre brought Kamala into the WWF at this point just to be because they could probably make some money in some matches, some big men matches like the one they just had. It's way better than a squash match, which I thought it might have been, considering it's Andre in a cage. But now this match, while it wasn't the most technical, it kept me interested from bell to bell. It was slow because these two guys aren't, it's not like they're like a cruiserweights, but they kept me interested. The story was actually pretty good. I was actually really impressed with how the story played out. And then we got to the finish. I really dug the finish. It was awesome to see Andre climb the top rope. Like I said, I don't know if I'd forgotten. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever seen Andre do that sort of thing ever. I never knew he did. I never even gave a thought to him or to looking for anything resembling him climbing the top rope. I know he was able to do drop kicks. I know that. But I know he kept the cage to keep balance. But still, that doesn't really freaking matter. Kamala had to have some trust in Andre to not get his freaking chest caved in once Andre hit that move on him. The move probably put more strain on Andre as it was anyway, considering his acromegaly was really, really starting to take its toll on Andre by this point. The only real negative about this match was the goddamn friggin' referee. I don't understand those spots with Friday. I don't understand it. Well, what were they trying to convey? That Friday was taking advantage of his of opening the door so his guy could come out. It's not like Friday was trying to keep the door shut on Andre. Then I would understand, but that's not what's happening. The referee was making sure that the match stayed, the cage door stayed shut, but Kamala was never able to get out as a result, and it just led to some. It looks stupid. I mean, I would have rather. Seen like chop number 5,819 versus the ridiculousness of Friday and the referee battling for the door. It just took away from the match because it would go away from what they're doing in the ring right to the cage door. The cameras are right on it more than once. And honestly, it made me not care that if Andre won or not. I mean, how fucking stupid is that to where this little thing made me not care if Andre won. I wanted to see Kamala get through that damn door. I really did. And Kamala's the heel. So, I mean, I felt bad for Kamala. And like I said, unless I was mistaken, he was the heel, right? I'm sure I understood it. The only time that made sense was at the end when Friday was trying to push the door shut. No problem. I get that wholeheartedly. What would have been really cool is if Friday knocked the referee out while Andre was walking to the door, and then Friday tries to hold the door shut when Andre gets to it, and Andre like punches the door, and he punches Friday like off the stage or whatever it was. The little entrance ramp belt was right there, and then Andre walks in anyway, and the referee recovers and raises his hand up, and that'd been cool. So yeah, like the story was good. I didn't mind the slugfest that they had because it was supposed to be a fight. I had no problems with that. I gave the match a 7. It was still a little slow, and And the referee Friday door crap just took away from the match a little bit. You know, I'm gonna upgrade to a 7.5. You know, fuck that ref. I'm not gonna give him the satisfaction of like taking away 3 points. Fuck that ref. Anyway, this is a good match. I suggest if you want to go back in the day and watch this one, it's actually not a bad match for 84, considering those two big men. And it looked real. It looked like it was a legit fight. And both men didn't try to do anything that they couldn't do. And I suggest go watching this. And it's about, like I said, like 14 minutes or so. Yeah, give it a watch. Thumbs up from me. I'm going to cut it off right here. And I'll come back tomorrow with another Random Mass Daily Match Review. Have a good one.